to Study IQ IAS English channel. My name is Shubham Sagar. Today we'll be talking about lecture 12. And in the last lecture, that was lecture 11, we have talked about temple architecture and we have focused on the different subtypes of Nagara style, Sandhara, Nirandhara, Sarvato, Bhadra, and there were different other styles also based on the Shikhara, Latina, Rekha Prasad, Famsana style and Vallabhi style. And then we went to different regions and saw the different spatial and regional variation as far as temple architecture in Nagara style is concerned. So today we'll talk about the other parts, Dravida and Vishra at the same time. Once we are done with that, we'll talk about Buddhist and Jaina architecture. And see, the thing is, what I've realized is, let's say if you are continuously reading a theoretical portion, so you will get bored, So what we will do is, like in the last session, we have taken 10 questions which were all PYQs at the end. So now in between only, I will keep on including the PYQs as well as practice questions based on the latest pattern of UPSC, So once we do certain portion, one concept, I will give you one PYQ or one practice question. Via that particular logic, we'll be completing the whole lecture. In between, you will be getting 10 questions. At the end, you can post it in the comment section, chat section. What was your total score? You can even tell me your marks. Like one is like 8 out of 10 questions correct. Second is what is your actual marks out of 20, where you are including 1/3 negative marking, right? So let's start. So temple architecture and sculpture, we have talked about Nagara style yesterday and their different variation which were a lot. So you have to revise them and you have to revise them well. Even if you have not revised them, it's a standalone lecture. We'll be starting from Dravida, Vishra and going to Buddhist and Jaina sculptures and architectures rather. So you can watch it right now also. It's not an issue that if you have not watched the previous lecture, you won't understand anything. So Nagara style temples in North India, the earliest form of, the precursor of Nagara style was Panchayatan style, where you have one main shrine, 4 subsidiary shrines. This we have talked about earlier. Then Dravida style, Vishra style, which we will be talking about today. So Dravida style in South India, where you have something known as Vimana, which are comparatively larger than Shikhara, Pallavas and Cholas, especially Cholas. They have very larger Vimanas. Then you have Gopuram in Dravida style, which are large gateways. What else apart from that? Generally what happens, North Indian temples, they are not enclosed by a compound, But in Dravida style, most of these big temples you will see, they are enclosed by a compound. You have a big compound, you have a tank. All these things we will talk about. Then Vishra style, combination of both Nagara and Dravida. Vishra is very important because Hoysala style is one form of Vishra style, and Hoysala's 3 temples of Hoysala has been included in UNESCO World Heritage Site list, So it was 42nd UNESCO World Heritage Site from India. Today we have 43 UNESCO World Heritage Site. So this is important. We have to talk about that. How it is important from, current affairs perspective as well. 42nd UNESCO World Heritage Site. So we'll discuss that. So first of all, let's focus on, and then these things we have discussed in the last lecture. What is Sanctum, Sanctorum, Garbhagriha? What are Shikhara and Vimana? The upper portion in north is Shikhara. In south it is Vimana. Amalaka is the top portion, which generally indicates the, vehicle or the vehicle of the deity. So we have taken what does the term vehicle of the deity means. So let's say we are talking about, Ganga Mata or Ganga goddess. So Makar crocodile is the deity or the vehicle of the deity, Ganga. So again, this is Amalaka. Then Kalasha, which represents auspicious, what you can say, if there is Kalasha at the top, it represents that things will be happening for good in that particular temple. So it is auspicious. That is the word here. And then Vahana, mount or vehicle. We have discussed about all these things in the previous lecture. You can go back to previous lecture and you can have a look at this. Hello, Stoic. So let's continue our discussion from where we have left. Nagara, Dravida and then Vishra. Before we do that, as we have discussed that in between, I will keep on including some questions, some of which will be PYQs, some of which will be like the practice questions based on the current pattern of UPSC. So first question in front of you right now, and then we'll start the Dravida style. Which one of the following books of ancient India has the love story of the son of the founder of Sunga dynasty? This particular question was asked in 2016. And you can take a guess if you are not very sure about it, but try to attempt all. Generally what happens in actual UPSC exam, if you have 100 questions, you will not be attempting all, So you will be attempting 60, 70. You will decide your sweet spot and accordingly attempt. But when you are doing practice right now, try to attempt all. Try to see how much you are getting when you are attempting a certain number of questions. Right. So Stoic has given the answer of this particular question. Which one of the following books of ancient India has the love story of the son of the founder of Sunga dynasty? That is Malvika Agnimitra. So this particular name consists of two parts. Malvika is the name of the girl plus Agnimitra, who was the son of Pushyamitra Sunga. So Agnimitra Sunga. So Malvika Agnimitra, please do not make mistakes in these PYQs because that is, a sin you cannot commit. Fine. So now let's come to Dravida style. Dravida style, you have Vimana, you have Gopurams, you have tanks, and then you have some more features. So if we talk about Dravida style, who started, building temples in Dravida style on a larger scale? Those were Pallavas. Pallavas, they ruled from 3rd century AD to almost 9th century AD, And Pallavas, we have talked about Pallavas earlier also. If you go back to Gupta lecture, you may have, Namaste Anvesha. So if you go back to Gupta lecture, you may have heard about Vishnu Gopa, whom we have talked about, like Samudragupta met Vishnu Gopa, who was a Pallava king. So 3rd century to 9th century. But what happened in the 7th century? 7th century AD is an awesome period. Why it is an awesome period? I will show you a map. Let me show you a map and then tell you something from map perspective. So we know Pallavas are active from 3rd century AD onwards, till 9th century AD. But this particular period, 625 AD, is a very interesting period. When you're looking at the map, you will understand a lot of things. So 625 AD. If I ask you right now, 625 AD, who was ruling over they have written it already, Harsha. And if somebody asks you, like Harsha's period was from which particular year to which particular year? So what will you be saying here? Again, have a look at the maps. Maps will make you, you can understand things in a much better manner if you're having a look at the maps. So 625 AD, it's a period where different dynasties are there. Harsha's period is from 606 to 647 AD. So at this particular point of time, Harsha is ruling, you can see here. And then Pallavas, they are ruling the centers at Kanchipuram. Chalukyas, if you remember, we have discussed about a king. His name was Pulakesin II. Pulakesin II, who defeated Harsha. And that particular information, we are getting it from a particular inscription. If you know about that particular inscription, you can post it in the comment section. Which inscription talks about the defeat of Harsha by Pulakesin II. So Pulakesin II is active here. P2, let's write it. He defeated Harsha. He is also fighting with the Pallavas. And it is said that there was a Pallava king. His name was Mahendra Varman. So this Pulakesin II, he defeated Pallava king Mahendra Varman. And then after Mahendra Varman, his son came. Okay, so you people are writing it in the comment section. And then after Mahendra Varman, his son came, whose name was Narsim Varman I. Narsim Varman I defeated Pulakesin II. He took the avenge. And these guys, when we are talking about Mahendra Varman, when we are talking about Narsim Varman I, Narsim Varman II, they started making, Dravida style temples. They started making monolithic rathas. Monolithic. It is monolithic rathas. Monolithic rathas means, monolith means they are carving out a particular temple from a single rock. And it's rathas means they are making it in the form of a chariot. So a temple at Mahabalipuram, Arjuna's Pinas. These are some very famous temples associated with Pallavas, which you have to remember. Ahiol inscription, many of you are answering it. Very good, yaar. So please remember this. Please remember this chronology. They can ask you that Mahendra Varman or Naren means Narsim Varman I and then Pulakesin II and Harsha, they were contemporary. The answer is yes, they were contemporary. And you have to remember, when we talk about Pallavas art, we have to remember Mahendra Varman, Narsim Varman I, Narsim Varman II. Cool. So let's come back here. We have talked about this particular question. We are talking about Pallavas and the Dravida style. They were the ones who started popularizing this Dravida style. They started, using gopurams, gateways, plus they have a compound wall, and here you will call the upper structure of the temple as Vimana. Cool. So now let's come and let's talk about some unique features of Dravida style. So generally you have something known as Dwarpalas or gatekeepers. They are the ones who will be protecting the, deities inside the temples. They look something like this. So they can scare you a bit, but don't worry too much about them. Cool. And then what see, understand one thing. When we will talk about Dravidian style, so you will understand and you will see Pallavas, you will see Cholas, and then we'll talk about Vijayanagar, we'll talk about Pandyas. So you have to understand their basic features. You don't have to do PhD on them. We'll see the questions also, how they ask questions related to these, kingdoms. Vijayanagar, we have to do them in detail later on also, because UPSC loves Vijayanagar. They ask a lot of questions on Vijayanagar, related to Vijayanagar, and you means class 12th, I think, chapter 7 or something is entirely devoted to Vijayanagar. So Vijayanagar is very important. We'll have a separate lecture on them. So now, first of all, let's focus here. So Pallavas, why they are famous? They popularized Dravidian art. They popularized rock cut architecture, and their art is generally known as monolithic rathas. That is, they are, you can see here, they make it in the form of a rath and they're carving it out of a single stone. Cool. And there are certain rulers whom you don't have to forget. Remember this 625 AD map. That will also help you in understanding a lot of stuff. So now, in NCERT, there is a reference about Pallava king Mahendravarman I, who is a contemporary of Chalukyan king Pulakesin II. If he is a contemporary of Pulakesin II, he is a contemporary of Harsha. So you have to remember these names because they generally ask whether Guru Nanak ji is a contemporary of Babar or not. Babar and Krishnadev Roy are contemporaries. So you have to keep a tab on these contemporaries. They are very important from exam perspective. Then you have the son of Mahendravarman I, that is Narsimvarman I, and he is the one who will defeat Pulakesin II. Pulakesin II, who also defeated Harsha, as we have discussed multiple times now. He took the title Mamalla and he established a town known as Mamallapuram. Cool. And then monolithic rathas they have made. And then after that, you will also get a king called Narsimvarman II, who will be making Shore temple at Mahabalipuram. So these are some important temples which we have to keep in mind. Shore temple at Mahabalipuram. And there you will see three shrines. 2S, if I'm not wrong, 1V. That means 2 shrine where the main devotee is Shiva and 1 shrine where the main devotee is Vishnu. So these kind of things happen, and that also shows that maybe the Shore temple at Mahabalipuram was made by, or certain structures were added by later rulers again. So this is what we are depicting here, that Narsimvarman I, he took the revenge of his father, like Mahendravarman I, by defeating Pulakesin II. So this Narsimha prefix many names, like we had Narsimha Gupta in the period. Yeah, I can understand this. So here you have to remember it from Varman. But again, the Varman, suffix is also used by the rulers of Kamrup. So there can be confusion, Manisha. I can totally understand that. So Shore temple at Mahabalipuram, please remember this. And many people say that there were other temple architecture also nearby to this particular Shore temple, but many of them have, submerged. The foreigners who have come or visited this particular place, they have talked about something known as 7 pagodas. 7 pagodas. And one of those pagoda was the Shore temple at Mahabalipuram. The rest 6 we are still searching. Some of them may have submerged because this is an area which is very close to the sea. And if you locate Mahabalipuram, you will realize what I'm saying. So 7 pagodas, one of them was Shore temple at Mahabalipuram. And again, there are debates about it, who made it, but many people and many historians now converge on this particular fact that Narsimvarman II, he was the guy who made the major portion of Shore temple at Mahabalipuram, and later on different rulers made addition to it. As we have discussed, there are 3 areas of worship. So many people believe that maybe there were 3 rulers at 3 different times who kept on adding different things to Shore temple at Mahabalipuram. 2 Shiva shrine and again 1 Vishnu shrine. I will tell you the things which are very important. Here what is important is you have to remember the chronology. Mahendravarman, Narsimvarman I, Narsimvarman II. Temple architecture is fine, but you also have to understand it from the point of view of, like, they are covering the portion of ancient India as well as early medieval India. So you have to keep that in mind. So evolution of Dravida architecture under Cholas. Cholas, will talk about them later on as well, and they are very famous for their Uttara Merur inscription, which promote local democracy. Uttara Merur inscription. If you know the ruler to whom this Uttara Merur inscription belongs, you can post it in the comment section. Then if you again go back and do a compare and contrast of Cholas and Pallavas, you will realize Pallavas monolithic architecture, rocks monolithic, they're carving it out of rocks, single rocks. Here they're using stones. And again, in the case of Cholas, they will make very big vimanas, mammoth vimanas. The upper structure will be very, very big, mammoth vimanas. Then Gangaikonda Cholapuram, Brihetswar temple at Tanjore, all these, temples, you know about it. Plus, we will talk about Cholas later on as well. You may have realized that these guys, they had a very powerful navy. So they captured portions of Sri Lanka, they captured portion of Southeast Asia, and they took Indian culture to these areas as well. So whatever, like the temples, etc., which you're seeing in Southeast Asia, which is now known as Indochina, the influence, the Indian influence which you're seeing there, Cholas had a major role to play in that. Hello, Arpit. Fine. So let's continue the discussion. Rajeshwar Temple, Brihetswar Temple, Tanjore, you have to remember it. Their Vimanas are becoming bigger and bigger. This is Mammoth Vimana. Gopurams, etc., they are there. It is said that later on, when we will talk about Pandyas, they will make something known as Parakramas or Parakramas, and then they will keep on adding Gopurams. Instead of making new temples, they will generally add Gopurams. When we will talk about Vijayanagara Empire per se, I am now class 11th. क्या मैं अभी से UPSC preparation start कर सकता हूँ? बिल्कुल कर सकते हैं. See, the point is, you can start UPSC preparation now, and there is a guy who's saying you can, like, it's earlier the better, Arpit. So yes, sir. So what we are discussing, we are doing a compare and contrast. We are focusing on the important area. Vijayanagara is very important. We will have a separate lecture on Vijayanagara and Bahmani. And right now, let's focus on compare and contrast. So when we will talk about Vijayanagara, you will see there are different temples there. Vitthal temple, Virupaksha temple. So initially they had Virupaksha temple. All of them are in Hampi, if I am not wrong. Virupaksha and Vitthal. If somebody asks you, Virupaksha and Vitthal, they are associated with which, gods per se? Virupaksha refers to which god and Vitthal refers to which god? So what will you say? So what we are doing today is we are taking 10 questions. Some of them are PYQ, some of them are practice questions, and in between, whenever we are getting bored of the theory, we will keep on doing them. We have already done one question and we have 9 more to follow. Rather than giving all 10 at the end, I decided that I will keep on giving them in between. Cool, bro. So Virupaksha, Vitthal. Virupaksha refers to, please don't Google it. These temples are from South, Arpit. So Virupaksha is Shiva and Vitthal is Vishnu. And again, when we will talk about Vijayanagara later on, you will realize that earlier Vijayanagara rulers were Shaivites. Later on they became Vaishnavites. And this particular information is given in a book which is known as Prapannamritam. We'll talk about all these things. So currently we are focusing on South India, Dravidian style, and we are doing a compare and contrast. Pallavas, monolithic architecture, very famous. Show temple at Mahabalipuram, Arjuna's Penas, we'll have a discussion on them also later on also when we are talking about, caves, paintings, etc. And when we talk about Cholas, Brihetswar temple, they are using stone, and then Gangaikonda Cholapuram. When we will talk about Pandyas, it is said about Pandyas. See, when we were talking about even Sangam age, we talked about Chola, Chera and Pandyas. So Pandyas are there from 4th century BC, and some people say that they were there till 16th century AD. So they are one of the longest serving empire in the world, Pandyas of Madurai. So Pandyas, Meenakshi Amman temple, they have a very famous temple which is very famous, and if you go and see that temple, it's awesome. So beautiful. So what they are doing, they are generally adding Gopurams, gateways, rather than making new temples. I mean, Meenakshi Amman temple is an exception, not a norm. And they have very good prakarmas. What are prakarmas? We'll have a look at them. Cool. So let's talk about them. So again, why I told you about this particular example, that when we'll talk about Vijayanagara, you will see initially the early Vijayanagara rulers, Sangam, Saluva, Tuluva, Aravidu, you talk about different dynasties of Vijayanagara. So Sangam rulers, they were Shaivites. Later on, you will see Saluva, Tuluva, Aravidu, most of them were Vaishnavite. So Alvars and Nayanars, we'll talk about them in Bhakti movement. So what happens? They are, inside Hinduism, and generally the competition is between Hinduism, Buddhism and Jainism in ancient and early medieval India. We'll see that particular competition. But you will realize that the competition is not only between Hinduism, Buddhism and Jainism. The competition is also inside Hinduism, where Shaivites or Alvars and Nayanars are fighting among themselves. Not literal fighting, but a fight to, influence rulers to become Shaivite. The other group will try that the ruler become Vaishnavite. So this particular thing where you are seeing a transition of Vijayanagara rulers from Shaivite to Vaishnavite written in Prapannamritam book, that shows the competition within Hinduism, which you have to keep in mind. See, yes, Arpit, I come regularly live. My live timing is 7 PM every day. So I will meet you. So what we are doing right now, we are reading architecture, temple architecture right now. So Rajeshwar temple, Brihetswar temple completed by Raja Chola around 1010 AD. Now again, if you see this particular period 1010 AD, this is the period when in the north, we'll talk about that tomorrow. Tomorrow will start early medieval India. So you will realize that this is a period of turmoil in North India because North India has been ransacked by Mahmud of Ghazni, who will arrive with Al-Baruni and Firdausi. So at that, and this is actually an irony, when they were plundering the north, in the south, such a big temple was constructed, Brihetswar temple. Shiva temple it is, and again, they have two large gopurams. Again, if you see Dravida style, you will realize these rulers, they have a unique fascination for adding gopurams or gateways. Cool. So again, what we have discussed earlier, we'll discuss some theory. When we are getting bored with theory, we'll solve some question. We have already solved one. Let's see another. Not all questions today will be PYQs. Some will be PYQs and some will be practice questions. So second question in front of you, asked in 2020. With reference to the scholar literature of ancient India, consider the following statement. First, Panini is associated with Pushyamitra Sunga. Second, Amar Simha is associated with Harshvardhana. Third, Kalidas is associated with Chandragupta II. Which of the statement given above is are correct? A 1 and 2 only, B 2 and 3 only, C 3 only, D 1, 2 and 3. Even if you are not very sure, what I am telling you right now is from like yesterday onwards, what we have decided, we are taking at least 10 questions. Like yesterday, all 10 questions were PYQs. Today, some questions will be PYQs, some questions will be practice questions. So from yesterday onwards, we have started this, that in every lecture of mine, we'll have at least 10 questions, some practice, some PYQs. So this is again a PYQ. What is the answer? Dark has given the answer, Anjali has given the answer. So let's have a look at this. Kalidas is associated with Chandragupta II. That is correct. He is one of the Navaratnas, if we are not wrong. And you can again go back to Gupta period. You can revise that lecture. So you can eliminate the options where you don't have 3. So eliminate A, 1 and 2 only. And let's come back to other. Panini is associated with Pushyamitra Sunga. Panini has written a Sanskrit grammar which is known as Ashtadhyayi. And the time period is not very, like people are not very sure about it. 4th to 6th century BC, it is hovering around that period when he has written. The dates people are not sure. But everybody is sure about Pushyamitra Sunga, 2nd century BC. So there is a time lag of almost 200 to 400 years. First is wrong. If first is wrong, eliminate D also. Now you're left with B and C, 2 and 3 only and 3 only, you know. So Amar Simha, you know Amar Simha from his grammar, which is Amar Kosh. That we have discussed during the Gupta period. So again, he is not associated with the Harsha period or Pushyabhuti or Vardhana period. So second is also wrong. And the answer is C3 only, which Dark, Anjali and Manisha said. Good. Nice. Now let's come back to what we were discussing. So the answer is C3 only. So sub-style of Dravidian style. Vijayanagara Empire, we'll talk about them later on also. So what they did was, they made Vitthal temple, Virupaksha temple, Shaivite temple, Vaishnavite temple. But in general, and these temples are generally at Hampi. And Hampi is named after Pampa Devi. Pampa Devi. We'll have a discussion on this. UPSC loves Vijayanagar. In fact, you know, people focus on Chola. More than Chola, focus on Vijayanagar. Cholas, even if you talk about Chola, the early Chola of Sangam age is very important. But Vijayanagar of medieval India, you know, UPSC love Vijayanagar. You cannot skip Vijayanagar. We'll have a separate detailed discussion on Vijayanagar. So Pampa Devi refers to which particular goddess? And Kalidas wrote Malvika Agnimutra in Gupta period. And that was our first question, Manisha, which I think you missed it, but you can always, you know, go back and watch that part. So Malvika Agnimitra, that was the first question which we did today. So Pampa Devi refers to which particular goddess? Hampi is named after Pampa Devi. Pampa Devi is? Anyone? Okay, I will give you 10 more seconds. Also in prelims, especially in prelims. Just give me a second. The answer is, as Anvesha is saying, Parvati. Goddess Parvati. That also shows how initially the Vijayanagar rulers were Shaivites, later on they became Vaishnavites. In large Gopurams, high enclosure walls, more intricate decoration. This Gopuram thing will be done by Pandyas also, later Pandyas also, even though they will make a very beautiful temple called Meenakshi Amman temple, but they will keep on adding these gopurams and gateways. Okay, I just discussed Pampa Devi is Parvati. The courtly architecture of Vijayanagara are often shown like secular style. Again, we will discuss this. If you want to know more about it, we will anyway discuss it. You can go and I think see class 12 chapter 7, where they have, you have to check whether it is chapter 7 or not, where they have talked about that Vijayanagara rulers, Bahmani kingdoms, and then later on Deccan Sultanate. There were different rulers, Deccan Sultanate, you know, Bijapur, Golconda, Bidar, Berar, Ahmednagar. So these were Islamic kingdoms. So there was an influence. People sometimes, now what they do is, when we talk about Battle of Talikota, which happened between Vijayanagar and Deccan Sultanate rulers, they try to portray it as Hindu versus Muslim rulers. But when you will dig deep into the history of Vijayanagar and Bahmani rulers, you will realize that initially this Vijayanagar empire, they played a crucial role, you know, first of all in the decline of Bahmani kingdom, and later on when the Bahmani kingdom declined and Deccan Sultanate arrived, they groomed the princes of those, you know, the Deccan Sultanate, and that you can also watch in Bharat Ek Khoj. There is a series which is available for free on YouTube, which was directed by Syam Benegal. So that will also give you a good idea based on discovery of India. So we'll have a discussion on that, and that's what I'm saying, that secular style, Islamic style, all these style you can see in the temples of Vijayanagar Empire as well. So again, in Vijayanagar temples, you can see these yali. Like in the initial part, we have seen the gatekeeper thing in the Pallavas. They are the gatekeepers who are the protectors of the deities. So here the yali or hippogriffs, who has like, you know, these yali or hippogriffs, they are part lion, they are part bird. So they are very powerful and they are the protectors of us humans, yali or hippogriffs. So you can find them in Vijayanagar temples. Cool. And in some other southern temples as well. So do remember these names, yali or hippogriffs, what they are, and then I will later on also show you prakarmas, what they mean. Okay. So Nayaka style, this Nayaka style is associated with Pandyas, and Meenakshi temple at Madurai is a very famous temple. Here you have something known as prakarams. Some people say that prakaram is a fancy word for mandapa. Fancy word for mandapa. How, like, they looked like, I will just show you. Just have a look at it. So this is Hall of 1000 Pillars, Meenakshi Amman temple, and this whole, you know, hall which you are seeing, it was known as prakarams. But again, and before you enter the Garbhagriha, you have to go through this. So in a way, it's very similar to a mandapa. That's what mandapa is. We have talked about in the previous lecture, mandapa, ardha mandapa, mukhya mandapa, what they are. So today I was watching Bharat Ek Khoj while having lunch. It teared me up, and then I asked myself, Bharat Mata kya hai? Okay, cool. Very nice, Manisha. So, prakaram jo are huge corridors along with roofed ambulatory passageway of temple. So, they are in a way, you know, good looking mandapas with high amount of decoration. That's what you can understand here, prakarams. And they can ask you, prakarams are associated with which style or which dynasty or which kingdom. So prakaram, Nayaka style associated with Pandyas, and many scholars now believe they are one of the longest ruling dynasties in the world, these Pandyas. From 4th century BC to almost 16th century AD, almost 2000 years they are ruling. And like there is certain amount of time lag in between, but more or less they are ruling for almost 2000 years. Nice. So Meenakshi Amman temple. Then the Pandyas we have just discussed, this was also their structure. They did not focus on creating new architecture, new temples that much, but on adding new gopurams or gateways. Vishra style of temple architecture. This is very important from our exam perspective, because when we talk about Vishra style, that is a mixture of Nagara and Dravida style. So here the most famous Vishra style is Hoysala style. Hoysala was a kingdom which ruled, if I'm not wrong, between 11th and 14th century AD. And they made, like, they took full liberty. Something they took from Nagara style, something they took from Dravida style, and they made their own temples and in their own style. Some people said that it was a, sometimes they followed steelhead shape. Steelhead shape means temples shaped like stars, you know, and sometimes they use materials like soapstone. When again in the previous lecture we have discussed that whatever you are finding in a particular region, you will use it to make temples. Doesn't matter whether it is sandstone or marble or, you know, terracotta, or anything which you are finding in your region, you will use it. In this particular region, and especially these Hoysalas, they use soapstone, which is a very soft stone. So they could carve a lot of structures on it, which made them so beautiful that now 3 of the Hoysala's temple have been included in UNESCO World Heritage Site. They are the 42nd UNESCO World Heritage Site. So you cannot forget it. Visara style कौन से God के लिए बनाया जाता है sir? Same gods, you know, Shiva, Vishnu, etc. But in this, what they are doing is they are combining the elements of, you know, Nagara and Dravida style, Arpit. So let me show you what I mean when I'm saying, and these are the important keywords you have to remember. Soapstone, what material they are using, which kind of shape they have, Vishra and Hoysala style, steelhead shape, not all, because they are very free to use whatever they want to use of Nagara and Dravida. Generally, South Indian temples, if you see, their Vimanas are huge, much bigger than North Indian. But Hoysalas, the Vimanas, or you know, the topmost structure, they are comparatively smaller. So in that regard, they have taken some elements from, you know, Nagara style. So they have full liberty and there is no rule what they can use. They can use anything from Nagara and Dravida. It's a combination. Let me just first of all show you something. So see, this is a Vishra style temple, and you can see how it looks like a star shape and how much decoration they are doing, how much carvings they are doing, because they are using something called as soapstone, which is very soft in nature, you know. So we'll come back and we'll discuss all these things. And then again, if we go back to the previous lecture, we have discussed that when you have, let's say, Garbhagriha and you have mandapas, then there is a connecting structure in some temples which is known as Antarala. So Antarala you can see even in Vishra style. So they are free to choose whatever they want to. Like there is a saying, na? What is the rule? The rule is that there are no rules. They can adopt anything from Nagara, anything from Dravida. And there are different Vishra style. The most famous is Hoysala, and there we have to focus because it is in news. Yeah, most of the architecture are rock cut from Pallavas. So most of the the known architectures which we have to know, and which we have seen, because many of the Pallavas architecture have not survived. So whatever has survived, most of them are rock cut. So Vishra is a hybridized style, combination of Nagara and Dravida. What does Vishra means? An area to take a long walk. Cool. So they generally have northern style shikhara, and that's why the shikharas are comparatively smaller than southern temples, because southern temples Vimanas, they are comparatively larger. Like we have seen Cholas, they have mammoth Vimanas rather. So keep that in mind. So shikharas and mandapas are generally joined by Antarala. Again, you can go back to the previous lecture, you can listen to that thing what we have discussed, that before you enter a Garbhagriha or Sanctum Sanctorum, you have to go through mandapa. Sometimes what happens, the temple is so huge that you have different types of mandapa, Ardha mandapa, Mukhya mandapa, etc., etc. And then mandapas are also connected with Garbhagriha via an connecting entity which is known as Antarala. How did it look like? Like this. So you have Garbhagriha here where your main god is placed, then you have mandapa, and this connecting structure is known as Antarala. So please remember these names, what is Garbhagriha, what is mandapa, what is Antarala, what is Amalaka, what is Axis Mundi. Again, we have talked about what is Axis Mundi. So these terms you cannot forget. And see here, these temples do not generally have ambulatory passageway around Sanctum Sanctorum. Ambulatory passageway means Pradakshina Path, circumambulation. So here you have to remember the division which we have discussed. Sandhara, Nirandhara and Sarvato Bhadra. Sandhara, Nirandhara and Sarvato Bhadra. Anybody has any idea what is the difference between Sandhara, Nirandhara and? Yes. So Sandhara, Nirandhara and Sarvato Bhadra, what is the basic difference between them? We have done, I think, 2 questions up until now. Sandhara, Nirandhara, Sarvato Bhadra. And do tell me, by looking at this particular definition, that Vishra style generally do not have ambulatory passageway. You cannot do in most of the temples Pradakshina Path. So what does it mean? Is it mostly Sandhara? Is it mostly Nirandhara? Or is it mostly Sarvato Bhadra? I will give you 30 more seconds. All Sarvato Bhadras are Sandharas, but not the other way around. That is fine. But here I am asking that Vishra style is mostly what? Sandhara, Nirandhara or Sarvato Bhadra? Sundar, yes. So again, you people are not answering. You people are writing something else in the comment section. The answer is, this is Nirandhara. Vishra style is mostly Nirandhara. In Nirandhara, you did not have this circumambulation. So again, if you go back and look at this thing, so your Garbhagriha is this. If there was an open passageway here, so that you can do Ghumi Ghumi, as Manisha is saying, that means circumambulation, then it would have been a Sandhara style of temple. But since you cannot do the Ghumi Ghumi or the circumambulation, so it is a Nirandhara style. So mostly Vishra style is Nirandhara style. Cool. Nirandhara. Sarvato Bhadra was what? That you can do circumambulation around the Garbhagriha, and you can also access Garbhagriha from all four sides. It has gate on all four sides, right? Very good, Manisha. So Vishra style height is generally reduced. Why? Because they don't have Vimanas like South Indian style. They are generally following the Shikhara of North Indian style. So their height is comparatively reduced. Fine. Height of is again, you can have a look at this. So what they are doing for most of the part, they are following Vimana structure. And this is also similar to, again, you have to revise a little bit the last lecture. On the basis of Shikhara, we have discussed different types of Shikhara, Latina or Rekha Prasad, Famsana style, and then Vallabhi style. So if you see this particular part, you will see the Vimana of South Indian temples generally, they are like, Famsana style, and later on, at the topmost portion, they will become somewhat Latina or Rekha Prasad, not exactly. So that's what they are saying when they are saying this. That, where it is, Vimana was crowned by a circular shikhara above the neck. Vishra style, what is the rule? The rule is that there are no rules. They can do whatever they want to do. And that's why this ma'am is saying that in Vishra style, there are no rules. They can adopt any of the features of Nagara and any of the features of Dravida. This is generally what happens. Some of the part is Vimana, then they are capping it with Shikhara. The upper structure is generally smaller than the Vimana. That's what they are saying. The most famous Vishra is Hoysala style. Why we have to read Hoysala and the three temples? Because they are under 42nd UNESCO World Heritage Site, and we have to take or see all these three temples which are included under 42nd UNESCO World Heritage Site. There is a very high probability that UPSC can ask this particular 42nd UNESCO World Heritage Site this year, because they have already asked 40th, that is Dhaulavira. So again, there is a chance that they can ask. Sir, aap bahut acha padhate ho. Thank you so much. Thank you, Arpit. Rekha got married to Venkatesh Prasad. Okay, so let's come back. So what we are discussing here, circular Shikhara, this we have done, this we have seen, Hoysala style. So again, here there are certain keywords. We have discussed this, how they are able to make such intricate carvings in their temples, because they are using soapstone, which is very soft, so they can do carvings on these particular stones. And they have this whole structure, or let's go back, it is known as stellate plan or whatever way you pronounce it, because they look like a star. I will show you more star-like temples. So yes, see this particular temple, it looks like a star, stellate plan, and see the carvings. Here you can see more carvings. Why they are able to do such carvings? And why I keep on saying the same thing again and again? So that you can remember it. They are using soapstone. Good evening, Shundaram. So now what we have discussed, that three temples of Hoysalas, which are the prominent example of Vishra style, has been included under 42nd UNESCO World Heritage Site. The first temple is this, Belur's Channa Kesava Temple Complex. Now if somebody asks you, Channa Kesava Temple Complex belongs to which god? As I think Arpit was asking, does it belong to Shiva or Vishnu? They are the two main primary deities, so you can place your bet on them. So Channa Kesava Temple Complex belongs to, and you have to remember these three names which we will be discussing now. 42nd UNESCO World Heritage Site. Here history and current affairs are merging. So which god, bro? Oh my God. That you have to see, Arpit. Soapstone, we called it soapstone. So soap, sabun, stone, patthar, sabun patthar. I don't know. So you have to look at it. That is actually a very cute question. So yes, sir, Channa Keshav. See, remember this thing. Whenever there is a word called Keshav attached, Keshav, if you have seen, mythical or mythological serials and everything, you may have seen, hey Keshav, what are you doing, Keshav? Let's go for a walk, Keshav. So Keshav refers to Vishnu, God Vishnu. When Lakshmi Mata is talking to Vishnu, God Vishnu, he's saying Keshav, Keshav. So Keshav is Vishnu, and that's how you can remember. Any prefix or suffix associated with Keshav, that is Vishnu. Just like we have discussed earlier, Avadana. If you're saying Avadana anywhere, so that means that is a Buddhist text. So now Hoysala temple, this is the second temple which is under 42nd UNESCO World Heritage Site. There are 3 temples. So Hoysala temple, which is the main god here, like we have seen Chanakeshwar temple. So there the main god is Vishnu. Here Hoysala temple, this is important because these 3 temples are anyway very important now from exam perspective. Very high probability that this is coming in this year's pre. So Hoysala temple, which god? Hoysala temple, Krishna is also one avatar of Vishnu. Hoysala is Shiva, as Dark is saying Shiva. And then the third temple which is included under 42nd UNESCO World Heritage Site, that is Somnathpur Keshav temple. Now this is very easy. Which god? And fast. Somnathpur Keshav temple, which god? Keshav, we have just discussed Keshav, bro. Who is known as Keshava? Whom do we call Keshav? Keshav is Vishnu. So 2 Vishnu and 1 Shiva temple. Good, Dark. Let's move on. So what we have discussed up until now, that we will read some theory, and then to kill the boredom of theory, we will solve some PYQs as well as practice questions. 10 questions we have to solve, 2 we have already done. This is the third question in front of you. The painting of Bodhisattva Padmapani, we have discussed Bodhisattva earlier, is one of the most famous and oft illustrated paintings at where? Where do you find? Yes, very good, Vishnu. Like Vishnu is the answer. Dark, Manisha, or Anjali, Sundaram. Fine. So Padmapani, Bodhisattva, a Bodhisattva of compassion, and this is at Ajanta. Bodhisattva Padmapani. Bodhisattva is a feature of which Buddhism? You can post it in the comment section. So Padmapani painting. Now let's come to Buddhist architectural development. Please revise the things which we have done in the last lecture. Revise the thing which we have done today. And now let's go on. And temples will keep on coming one way or the other. We'll keep on discussing them. Like in current affairs also, we'll see what temples are in news. So we'll do that because there's still a long way to go. Now let's focus. We have already devoted 1.5 class to temples. So now let's focus to Buddhist and Jaina architectures, and they will include caves as well along with temples. And then later on I will also take a lecture which will be cave painting, music and dance. There also we'll talk about Buddhist and Jaina and Hindu sculptures. Fine. So Buddhist architectural development, Ajanta caves. And again there will be some revision which will be happening of yours. Ajanta caves we have discussed earlier as well. Ajanta cave associated with 2 dynasties. 2 dynasties played a crucial role in the creation of Ajanta caves. And these caves, like generally what happened, we'll talk about Ellora caves. So they have 12 Buddhist caves, and then they have around 17 Hindu caves, 5 Jaina caves, catering to all religions, showing India's secularism. But Ajanta caves, around 29 caves we have, all belong to Buddhism. So here they can write that Ajanta caves, all the caves belong to Buddhism, and they will ask you, and you have to say correct. So yes sir, 2 dynasties. What are those 2 dynasties? No, 2 dynasties who played a crucial role in the creation of these Ajanta caves. What are those 2 dynasties? We have done this, so think about it a little bit, and I will give you 10 more seconds and then we'll discuss it. So 2 dynasties which were involved in creation of Ajanta caves were Satavahanas, who made 4 or 5 caves, and then Vakatakas. We don't know the exact ruler of Satavahanas who made it, but we know the exact ruler of Vakatakas who made most of these caves. What was his name? Satavahana 1, Vakataka 2. The name of that guy was Hari Sen, and he belonged to Vatsugulma branch of Vakatakas. We have discussed this. After the early 2 rulers of Vakatakas, Vakatakas got divided into 4 branches, out of which we only know about 2, that is Vatsugulma and Nandivardhana branch. 2 other branches are not known to us, right? And the ruler Hari Sen of Vatsugulma branch, he made most of the Ajanta caves. People, please revise the previous lecture. Go back to Vakataka, Vardhanas and Sangam age video and revise this. We have discussed it there. You people have to revise it. Fine. So yes, sir. Discovery. For most of the period, it was like, covered with forest and everything. Accidentally, it was discovered. You can have a look at it. And please remember these things. UPSC is not focusing on these things like caves, where they are located, on the banks of which river. Vaghur river or Vaghera river, right? And the prominent religion is Buddhism. Unlike, let's say, Ellora, where you have Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, everything. Unlike, let's say, Elephanta, where you have Hinduism and Buddhism. So you have to be very focused. Let's say if I ask you, and just take a guess, bro. Don't like run away from taking guess. Let's say if I talk about Bagh caves, which prominent religion is reflected in Bagh caves? Hari Sen, very good, Anvesha. So which prominent religion is reflected in Bagh caves? First of all, where is Bagh caves and which prominent religion is reflected here? Bagh caves, prominent religion. Any idea, anyone? Bagh caves, the prominent religion is Buddhism. And it is there in Madhya Pradesh. So we will talk about these things. Fine. So Vaghera river, Aurangabad district, Buddhism. Remember these places, they are asking it. No, I'm not asking about Vishnu. Bagh caves, Madhya Pradesh, Buddhism, Anvesha. Fine. So time period. Again, see, one thing I will tell you, and you have to keep that in mind. Sometimes you'll be like, oh my god, this thing we have not discussed. Yes, Buddhism. Bagh cave mere liye new hai, no idea. Koi dikkat nahi yaar, but no issues at all. So the point here is, see, understand one thing. When we'll talk about caves, we'll have a separate lecture on caves also. We'll talk about caves starting from Adamgarh and Bhimbetka caves. But here we are talking about caves which has some religious affiliation. So let's understand this. In caves, especially Buddhist caves, we'll see this Chaitya and Vihara. UPSC has already asked a PYQ on Chaitya and Vihara. One, I remember they may have asked multiple questions on Chaityas and Viharas. They have directly asked definition of Chaityas and Viharas. What are Chaityas and what are Viharas? Chaityas and Viharas. I will give you 10 seconds. Chaityas and Viharas. Chaitya and Viharas. Chaityas are prayer halls. And please pay attention here. This is a very tricky question which we are discussing here. It has been asked multiple times by UPSC. Viharas are the dwelling place where they used to reside, dwelling place of the monks. Fine. So Chaityas and Viharas, they sometimes ask, that, or they sometimes say that in this particular cave, Viharas were more than Chaityas or Chaityas were more than Viharas. And people are like, oh my god, how will we remember this? You don't have to remember anything here. Large hall for, you see, understand one thing. Chaityas are prayer hall. In one particular prayer hall, 100 people can do prayer at the same time. Viharas are the place where they used to rest, these monks. You need more Viharas than Chaityas. So in most of these caves, especially those caves which has been man-made, rock cut architecture. So most of these caves, man-made or natural, doesn't matter. Most of these caves, you will have Viharas more than Chaityas. And this is common sense, bro. Here you don't even need to remember anything. Obviously, if there are 100 people, they can do away with like 2 Chaityas, 2 prayer halls. But if there are 100 people, you will need at least 20-30 Viharas so that they can sleep there or spend the night there, Hope you are understanding what I'm saying here. So in most of these caves, your Viharas will be more than Chaityas. Please keep this in mind. This will help you in eliminating many options. And this you cannot forget. Right? Vihara is living hall, Chaitya is praying hall, as Sundaram is saying. Village means Viharas are living quarters. Very good here. All the people who have answered this. So this you don't have to remember how many Viharas, how many Chaityas. Just keep it in mind. In most of these caves, your Viharas will be more than your Chaityas. Your living places will be more than your prayer halls. Cool. And then it is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Anything which comes under UNESCO World Heritage Site. We have already talked about Hoysala's 42nd UNESCO World Heritage Site it is. So we have to keep it in mind. It has been made under, phase 1, 2nd century BC, when Satavahanas were making it. 4-5 caves they made, around 24-25 caves. Second phase 2, 400 CE, when Vakatakas were making it. That is Hari Sen of Vatsugulma branch, he was making it. Fine. So what all is depicted? Worship halls, and you can have a look at it. They also present paintings. We just discussed one PYQ few minutes back, Padma Pani painting. So these kind of paintings you can see in these Ajanta caves. They mainly represent Buddhism, mainly. Unlike Ellora, Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism is there. Unlike Elephanta, Hinduism and Buddhism is there. Fine. Important caves, again, you don't have to do PhD here. You can have a look at it. What is the purpose? Retreat for monks. The monks used to live here during the monsoon season when it used to rain and rain and rain and rain. Again, have a look at or try to visualize Ajanta caves. It is very close to Western Ghat. Western Ghat is the region which receives a lot of rainfall. So they used to reside in these caves in those monsoon months, That's what they are saying here. Then Fahian, Yuan Tsang, all these guys came here and those records are there. And they have talked about Ajanta caves. Also, Abul Fazl, his Aine-Akbari and Akbar Nama. Now, there is a question for you. You people can comment it in the comment section or chat section. Abul Fazl, Aine-Akbari, and there is also Akbar Nama. So, what is the difference between Akbar Nama and Aine-Akbari? If you people know it, you can post it in the comment section. We'll have a discussion on this later on also when we'll talk about Mughals. So, what is the basic difference between Akbar Nama and Aine-Akbari? Okay, thank you Arpit for all the good comments which you are writing here. So Akbar Nama and Aine-Akbari, we'll have a discussion, detailed discussion on these books, what they are, and again, if you know it, you can post it in the comment section. So Ajanta caves is very popular. Fahial is talking about it, Yuan Tsang is talking about it, and Abul Fazl is talking about it. All these guys are talking about it. Very good. And then there is a map. Why I'm showing you these many images? So that you can remember it. The more images you see, the better you will become in remembering them. Caves of the first period. First period means when Satavahanas were making it. So you can see these many caves they made. 4, 5, and then most of the caves 23, 24 were made by the Vakataka king of Vatsugulma branch, whose name was Hari Singh. That's what they are writing here. Now, there is a very interesting point here. Hope you have not seen that first image. So, what we have seen here, first period, Satavahanas were making it. Satavahanas, if we discuss about Satavahanas, they were there in the post-modern period, right? So, Akbar Nama is a biography. Again, Akbar Nama and Aine-Akbari, one is a superset, other is a subset. One is a part of the other. So you have to find out whether Akbar Nama is a part of Aine-Akbari or Aine-Akbari is a part of Akbar Nama. I have just given you the hint. So let's focus here, bro, what we are discussing. So now if I ask you Satvahana period, and they are saying that during this period 100 BC to 100 CE, these caves were made. Satvahanas. Mahayana and Hinayana, they got divided in which particular Buddhist council? Mahayana and Hinayana, they got divided in which particular Buddhist council? Mahayana and Hinayana. They got divided in, again post it in the comment section, 4th Buddhist council, which happened during the reign of Kushana ruler Kanishka. So when these guys, Satvahanas, were making Ajanta caves, the original sect of Buddhism is Hinayana. So they gave patronage to Hinayana Buddhism. But when Vakatakas came and Hari Singh came of Vatsugulma branch, so when he was making it, he gave patronage to Mahayana. And that's why when we talk about Ajanta caves, you have both the tenets there of Buddhism. Hinayana as well as Mahayana. Satvahanas gave patronage to Hinayana, Theravada, that is the original school, orthodox school, and then these guys, that is Vakatakas, they gave patronage to Mahayana. So don't forget it, don't get confused. As you people are writing in the comment section, 4th Buddhist council, that is actually correct. Now let's talk about Bagh caves. We are talking about some Buddhist architecture, and these are some caves, there are some temples. Bagh caves, again Buddhism. Madhya Pradesh, these are the two things which you have to remember. Sometimes who gave patronage, like if we talk about Elephanta caves, we don't know, we know Elephanta cave shows, Hinduism and Buddhism tenets. We know Sadashiva is associated with, Elephanta caves, where you are showing Shiva in 3 forms, creator, preserver and destroyer. But we don't know who gave patronage to Elephanta cave. So you don't need to worry too much about the patronage thing, but at least remember in which place it is. Like Bagh caves, Madhya Pradesh, MP. And then time period is this. We are not very sure about the dynasties who gave patronage. Religion is Buddhism. Just like Ajanta caves, the dominant theme here is Buddhism. Unlike Ellora and Elephanta, Ellora you find tenets of all 3 religions, Buddhism, Hinduism and Jainism, and Elephanta, Hinduism and Buddhism. Difference between Aine-Akbari and Akbar Nama. Okay. So group of 9 rock-cut Buddhist monuments, all of them are viharas. We had done one mathematical calculation earlier that when it comes to viharas and chaityas, most of these caves will have more viharas than Chaitya. See here, our logic is totally correct. Now what they can ask, like when we'll talk about, Ellora caves, you will see here, there we will talk about Kalasha temple, there we will talk about Indra Sabha, there we will talk about Carpenter's cave, and here also see the term is Rang Mahal. So, and when we will talk about Elephanta caves, we will talk about Sadashiva. So they can ask you this. Sadashiva is associated with Ajanta cave A, Ellora cave B, Bagh cave C. Similarly, they can ask you this. Rang Mahal is associated with, Elephanta caves A, Ajanta caves B, Bagh cave C. That's how you have to remember stuff. And these are the keywords which you have to pay attention to. Cool. So these are Bagh caves. Special point, located again. The rivers are also important, because if you see the PYQs, they have already asked Ajanta caves are located here and there on the banks of which river. So you have to also pay attention to if they are located, like if there is any river close by, you have to also know the name of that river, Baghani and Bageshwari. Fine. Now there are keywords. Pay attention to the keywords. Like you are seeing here, mural paintings. When we will talk about cave painting, music, dance, we'll talk about paintings in general also. But let's talk about three words here: mural, fresco, and miniature paintings. Mural, fresco, and miniature. So anybody having any idea, like what is the difference between mural, fresco, and miniature? Mural, fresco, and miniature. Bagh cave are those caves which are in Madhya Pradesh, Arpit. They promote Buddhism and they are showing, association with Buddhism. There are different, all of them are viharas only, all the caves. That means people used to live there. There is no prayer hall as such in Bagh cave. You have Rang Mahal. One specific cave has been named as such. That is the only thing you have to remember. It is located on Bageshwari river. That's it. Nothing more than that from exam perspective. Now the next part here is mural, fresco, and miniature. These caves, when you will witness them, Pani painting, etc., you will witness these terms and you should be knowing about these terms. What is the difference between mural, fresco, and miniature? So mural paintings, paintings done on wall. Frescoes, they are also paintings done on wall. So frescoes are type of mural. They are also one subset of mural. But here in this fresco, you are using wet plasters. Like you may have seen wet plasters when your housework is going on and the guys are doing work on your floor, etc. So wet plasters. When you are making paintings using wet plaster, then something is created which is known as fresco. So fresco is a type of mural. And then the third part is miniature painting. What is miniature painting? The paintings which you are seeing in your books, Mughal books, you are seeing some paintings on their books, which is occupying, there is a certain requirement that 1/3 area should be, story, etc. So that is miniature paintings, paintings which are there on the books. So you should be knowing about these terms: mural, fresco, and miniature. We'll have a look at these mural, fresco, and miniature in detail later on when we are talking about paintings. Fine. Sometimes what happens when we see these words, we ignore them. Don't ignore them. UPSC asks questions from ignored areas. Let's have a look at fourth question. Up until now, we have done 3 questions. All of them were PYQs. This is also a PYQ. As we keep on going, at the end of 10 questions, you will see some practice questions which are not PYQs. 2021, they have asked this question. Ajanta caves A lie in the gorge of Waghora river. B, Sachi Stupa lies in the gorge of Chambal river. C, Pandulena cave shrines lies in the gorge of Narmada river. Amaravati Stupa lies in the gorge of Godavari river. I will give you one homework based on this particular question. Good evening, Bulbul. Cool. Cool, Arpit. So, fourth question we are doing for today. Which one of the following statement is correct? 2021 question. A option. Ajanta caves lies in the gorge of Waghora river. Sanchi Stupa lies in the gorge of Chambal river. C, Pandulena caves shrine lie in the gorge of Narmada river. D, Amaravati Stupa lies in the gorge of Godavari river. What is the answer? As A is saying, and like Dark is saying, Dark is awesome. I have rarely seen him answering any wrong question or wrong, answer. So, yes, Ajanta caves lies in the gorge of Waghora river or Waghera river. We have just discussed this. Sanchi Stupa lies in the gorge of... Now, this is the second part. What most of the people will do is, they will just remember the answer of this question. Maybe they have done the PYQs marathon, etc. They have done these questions. But now you have to do research on the other options. Like you have to study about Sanchi Stupa. On which particular bank of, which river it is located close to Sanchi Stupa. NCERT has devoted one particular chapter on Sanchi Stupa and Amaravati Stupa, So we have to pay attention, like how Sanchi Stupa has been preserved by one Muslim ruler. You know, it's a Buddhist art preserved by a Muslim ruler. Same was not done with Amaravati Stupa or something. So Sanchi and Amaravati Stupa comparative analysis has been done in one NCERT chapter. So Sanchi Stupa located on the banks of George का मतलब क्या होता है? I will just tell you what is George. Don't worry about it. So here history, geography, everything is meeting. Sanchi Stupa is located on the banks of Betwa river. You know. And Pandulena cave shrines is located on the George of, you know, I think Gomai river or something. And this Amaravati Stupa lies near Krishna river, not Godavari. So the answer is A. Now, as Arpit asked in the comment section, what is gorge? See, what happens when you will read something known as fluvial landforms? This is the correct answer. Fluvial landforms. Fluvial landforms are landforms created by rivers. You know, landforms created by rivers. You may have heard about them. So in that scenario, you may have seen that river comes from upper stage and it goes till, you know, it goes and make deltas at the lower stage. So there are certain stages here. So upper stage of a river, where it is eroding mountains, the velocity is very high because it is coming from, you know, let's say glacier has melted, the speed is very high. So it is cutting the mountains and the slope is also very high and very steep. So from upper stage, it will come to middle stage and then lower stage. Here history and geography is merging. So upper stage, middle stage and lower stage. So in the upper stage, because the slope is very steep, what will happen? The river's velocity is very high. So it will cut all the things which is coming on its way, or most of the things which are coming on its way, and then it will create something which is known as gorges or canyons. So that happens in the upper stage when you get these gorges and canyons, like Grand Colorado Canyon and all those gorges, you may have heard about it. You know, gorges are topography formed by erosional action. So in the upper stage, erosion is the dominant feature of the river. You know, in the middle stage, transportation is the dominant feature of the river, and in the lower stage, deposition is the dominant feature of the river. All the things happen at all this stage: erosion, transportation and deposition. But maximum erosion happens at the upper stage of the river, where the velocity of the river is highest. When it will come to the middle stage, because it is carrying sediment with it, the river, so sediment will, what they will do, they will keep on depositing in the river. They will stop or halt river speed or reduce river speed to a certain extent. So the speed will reduce to a certain degree, and in the lower stage, because the deposition is so high, river's velocity will reduce further. It will form delta, it will reach the mouth of the sea, and the deposition will be the predominant feature, and alluvial soil etc. will get formed here. Sir, you are a polymath. Thank you, Manisha. Right. So gorges or canyons, they are formed in the upper stage. Hope I made some sense here. Hope you understood all these things. Very good. So cool. Arpit's doubt is cleared now. So again, please remember these things. This is actually a very tricky question here, which we just discussed. Not at all an easy question. So now your homework is, you have to also do research. Okay. So your homework is, you have to also do research on Sanchi, Pandulena and Amaravati Stupa. Everything related to them, whatever you can do. Like Sanchi, Betwa, Pandulena, Gomai, Amaravati near Krishna. We have talked about upper, middle and lower stages of river. Let's move on. So now let's come back to what we are doing right now. We have discussed how many questions up until now? 4 questions. We have to still do 6 questions. In between, when we will get bored of the theory, we'll come back to these questions. So we are talking about Buddhist architecture. We have talked about some of the caves which are exclusively related to Buddhism. And then we'll talk about, later on we'll also talk about caves which are exclusively related to Buddhism. In the meantime, we'll also talk about temples. This is Mahabodhi temple at Bodh Gaya. So initially, Mauryans, they created some portion of it. But whatever you are seeing right now, this is all colonial. This is all colonial construction. This is so funny. Means created by Britishers. Most of the things which Mauryan people did, they have not survived. And whatever you are seeing of Mahabodhi temple, Bodh Gaya currently is a work of Britisher. So now a reflection of the colonial period reconstruction. Mauryan remains have not survived. This you have to remember. Sir, I think when you visit any historical place, you never hide guides, right? Manisha, you are flattering me right now. So yes, sir. So again, the place where Buddha got enlightenment, we have talked about the 4 holy places associated with Buddhism. And again, if you have not watched the Buddhism lecture, you can watch it. So if you know the 4 holy places associated with Buddha, you can post it in the comment section. One place where he got, like, you know, where he took birth, second place where he attained enlightenment, third place where he gave his first sermon, fourth place where he attained Mahaparinirvana, that is where he died. Cool. So yes, sir. Let's go back and let's. Now this is Nalanda Mahavihara. You know, Nalanda Mahavihara associated with a Gupta ruler, that is Kumargupta. So in Nalanda Mahavihara, you will see all aspects of Buddhism. Hinayana, Mahayana, Vajrayana. Here later on, you will also see crowned Buddha. Crowned Buddha is an element of Vajrayana Buddhism. What happens in crowned Buddha, how he looks, I will just show you and then we'll come to Nalanda Mahavihara. Oh, just a second. So this is crowned Buddha, and there are different interpretation of crowned Buddha, generally associated with Vajrayana Buddhism. So what is the basic meaning of crowned Buddha when we are talking about? Okay, you people are answering the 4 most important, like 4 holy places associated with Buddhism. Fine. So crowned Buddha has different meaning. One meaning is that you know, Buddha's cosmic existence and otherworldly existence, that is crowned Buddha. Second is he is different from all the kings of the world, and that's why he looks like this, you know. So crowned Buddha, Vajrayana concept, all these things you can see in Nalanda Mahavihara. But again, only remains we can see, because we already know, most of you may have known about Bhaktiar Khilji and what he did to Nalanda Mahavihara. So only a small portion have survived, and Xuanzang or Huan he has talked about it. Kumargupta has created it. We have talked about it a lot earlier, you know. So again, Theravada, Mahayana, Vajrayana, all you can see here. In Vajrayana, when we have talked about Buddhism, we have talked about Vajrayana. Okay. So I will come back to you, Manisha. That is actually a very good comment. So when we have talked about Vajrayana Buddhism, we have talked about 2 types of truths. You can go back to Buddhism lecture. So what were those 2 types of truth? Anybody has any idea? My respect for teachers like you is endless, because these teachings are my treasures that I will take with me from life. I mean, we are dreaming because of teachers. Thank you, Manisha. Thank you so much. So yes, ma'am and sir, Vajrayana, when we are talking about different, you know, forms of Buddhism, we have talked about Vajrayana, and we have talked about 2 kinds of truth in Vajrayana, that is conventional truth and ultimate truth, you know. Conventional truth, which you are seeing from your senses. Ultimate truth, when you have awakened consciousness, then whatever you are realizing. So please don't forget all those things. And in the Vajrayana concept, we have seen the concept of Guru, as Manisha is saying, is very important, and that Guru is known as Lama. So that's how you are deducing that Dalai Lama, he is a proponent of Vajrayana Buddhism. Fine. Arya Sachini. Cool. So again, different images of. So Nalanda scriptures initially depict Buddha deities of Mahayana, and later on other tantric tradition, Vajrayana, etc. they have shown. Elephanta caves. So now we have talked about Ajanta caves, Bagh caves, which are predominantly Buddhism. Elephanta cave shows tenets of Buddhism as well as Hinduism, and that's why we are reading it at the end. Because up until now, whatever sculptures, architectures, or you know, temples, etc., caves, etc., we have seen, they were exclusively Buddhism. This is not exclusively Buddhism. This is Buddhism plus Hinduism. Anybody has any idea why these caves are known as Elephanta caves? Why they are called as Elephanta? Elephanta caves. Because I will give you 10 more seconds. These caves are known as Elephanta caves because when Portuguese first visited this particular cave, they saw so many elephant statues. So they named it Elephanta caves. Fine. It is on an island in Maharashtra, not very far from Mumbai. It is in news also, current affairs news. Some PPP project is going on, public-private partnership project. And it has tenets of both Buddhism and Hinduism. One tenet of Hinduism is Sadashiva, which is image of Shiva. They can ask you, just like Rang Mahal, we have talked about Bagh caves, you know, Padma Pani paintings, Ajanta caves. Remember these key attributes related to these caves and temples, etc. Ad came in between. What did you ask? Okay, I also forgot what I asked. So I just asked why they are called as Elephanta caves, Manisha. So Sadashiva, that is associated with Elephanta caves. That is a representation of Shiva in 3 forms: creator, preserver and destroyer. Let me show you how Sadashiva looks like, and then we'll talk about Elephanta caves. So this is Sadashiva. So please remember this, Sadashiva is associated with which cave? Elephanta caves. Here you are seeing 3 forms of Shiva, and they represent creation, means preservation and destruction. See, initially when you read about Hinduism in detail, you will realize that there are Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, 3 gods, one is creator, one is preserver, one is destroyer. Later on there are so many books written over it that God Shiv, he cursed God Brahma, he did something wrong that nobody will remember you. And that's why what has happened these days is that we talk about Shiv and Vishnu, and we don't talk about God Brahma that much because of something which happened. We can talk about that story. That is actually a long story. Maybe some of you may have heard about it. So that's why there came a time when God Shiva was associated with all the 3 aspects. Earlier, you had 3 different gods. So these things these things happen. You don't need to worry too much about it. From our exam perspective, what is important is Sadashiva is associated with which cave, Rang Mahal is associated with which cave, Padma Pani painting is associated with which particular cave. All these facts are important, and we will see some more facts later on as well. So let's come back, bro. So we are talking about Elephanta caves. Why they are called as Elephanta caves, we know now, because when Portuguese came, they saw so many elephant statues here and they named this particular cave as Elephanta cave. Very good. So they are located on an island close to Bombay, and now there is a PPP project going on which will connect Bombay to this particular island. PPP, Public-Private Partnership, located there on the Elephant Island or Gharapuri. Why such a name? We have just discussed it. When Portuguese first saw it, they saw elephant statues and they named it as Elephanta caves. Who gave patronage? We don't know. And that's why we don't need to worry about them too much. But for those caves whom we have a clear idea, let's say Ajanta caves, we know Satwanas and, Vakatakas, Vatsugulma and Harisain. So we have to remember them. Rang Mahal, Bagh caves. Cool. So let's move on. Recent development, India's first and longest sea ropeway project that will connect Bombay with the Elephanta caves. Your work is find the current status of this particular project. This is your homework. You can post it in the comment section also. What is the current status? Second point which you have to do here is, because here again history and current affairs is meeting, just like what we have discussed with Hoysala temple, 42nd UNESCO World Heritage Site, 3 temples. Similarly PPP, Public-Private Partnership. So here again I'm giving you some homework. Here history and economy is meeting. So public-private partnership, when it comes, you have to remember the meaning of these terms which I'm telling you. UPSC has already asked questions on this. First is Greenfield project. What is the basic meaning of Greenfield project? Second, what is the basic meaning of Brownfield project? Third, there are different PPP models. One is known as BOAT, Build, Operate, Transfer, if I'm not wrong. Second is known as EPC, Engineering, Procurement, Construction. And third is known as HAM. There are other models also, BOOT, etc. But let's not go there. That will So BOT, EPC and HAM, Build, Operate, Transfer, Engineering, Procurement, Construction. HAM is Hybrid Annuity Model. You have to also find out the difference between these 3. UPSC has asked them in mains. They can always ask them in pre. And we are doing this prelims crash course. You people keep on asking me, so you will only cover history. No. I have shown you my mark sheet in the orientation lecture. You can see it again. So I will cover everything which is important from pre-prospective, which will help you in clearing pre-2025. Just keep on following me and watch the lectures, solve the questions which I tell you to, and just watch what happens, right? So these are your homework, and you can post it in the comment section whatever you know about them. Greenfield, Brownfield, BOT, EPC and HAM. So, and the current status of this particular project on Elephanta caves. So whenever they are in news, they become more important from exam perspective. About the caves, we have just discussed. They have 2 tenets. Unlike Ajanta and Bagh caves, which were predominantly Buddhism, here you have seen Hinduism and Buddhism, both elements. Right. So they are just giving you an idea that 2 groups of caves are there. In the east, you have groups of caves which are Buddhist in nature. To the west, you have Hindu shrines. And out of those Hindu shrines, we have just seen one, which is very important, Sadashiva. 7-meter high masterpiece Sadashiva, showing Shiva in 3 forms: creation or creator, preserver and destroyer. When we are talking about one thing again and again and again and again, that means that is important. Now let's talk about the 5th question of the day. We have done 4 questions up until now. This is the 5th question. And again, use common sense. The previous PYQs which you have done will help you in eliminating the current PYQ you are doing. So with reference to cultural history of India, the memorizing of chronicles, dynastic histories and epic tales was the profession of who of the following? With reference to cultural history of India, the memorizing of chronicles, dynastic history and epic tales was a profession of who of the following? Dark wives have given the answer. See, Shravana and Parivrajika, we have already done PYQ on this, earlier done. We already know, if you have revised the earlier lectures, you already know what does Shravana and Parivrajika stands for. They are generally the wanderers, they are the lay followers of different religion, Shravana and Parivrajika. So they cannot be, they could not have written the memorizing of chronological dynastic history, etc. because they don't want to do anything with these things. They are generally lay followers, they are generally the wanderers, they are generally the people who have left everything aside. So now you are left with, and that's why you do option elimination, and that's why people tell you to solve PYQs. The previous PYQs will help you in solving the current PYQ. Sir, mera SC certificate government of NEC, okay, you have to, okay. See, I don't know about this SC certificate thing, recreated entertainment. You have to Google this, and again, we can have a discussion on this later also, right? So focus here, bro. A and B you can eliminate because we have done PYQs on this earlier. Now you're left with C and D, Agraharika and Magadha. So Agraharika are those people who are taking care of Agrahara. Agrahara. So when we will talk about, or when we were talking about land grant system of Satavahanas, we'll talk about them tomorrow also, because tomorrow we'll be starting early medieval India. So early medieval India from 750 AD, we have done till Harsha, so we'll start from 750 AD, tripartite struggle, Pala Pratyahara, Rashtrakutas, feudalism, rise of Rajputs. So that we will be doing tomorrow. So there again we will be talking about, like when we are talking about feudalism, land grants. So Agrahara are those lands which are generally given to Brahman or Brahmadeya villages, you know. So the people who are taking care of these Agraharas, they are known as Agraharika. So again, that is not the answer. The answer is Magadha, as Dark said. So please keep these points in mind. Don't do mistakes in these. And this is actually a tough question. You know, most of the people don't do this question. And I'm telling you from my experience, I give them again and again, and this make the same mistake all the time because they don't revise. Shramna, Parivrajika we have done earlier. Magadha is the answer. Agraharika I have just told you. So now let's talk about Jaina architectural developments. We'll first talk about some caves, then go to temples, and then we'll see some caves which are related to all the different, you know, religion. So Udayagiri and Khandagiri caves, please understand this thing, that this particular cave, Udayagiri and Khandagiri cave, is not equal to Udayagiri caves. They sound same, but they are same and like but different. That is the song, right? So Udayagiri and Khandagiri caves is not equal to Udayagiri caves. It is a different cave, and this is a different cave. If you people know where is this Udayagiri cave, you can post it in the comment section. When we are talking about Udayagiri and Khandagiri cave, it is in Odisha. And you know about Udayagiri and Khandagiri caves, although not directly, but indirectly. Because we have talked about Hathi Gumfa inscription of Khadavela. Hathi Gumfa inscription of Khadavela, and that Khadavela was the one who was responsible for making most, if not all, of these Udayagiri and Khandagiri caves. And in this Hathi Gumfa inscription, we have already discussed that Khadavela gave patronage to Jainism. There were two major rulers whom we associate with Jainism and who gave like proper patronage to Jainism. Inscriptions, you know, verify this. Chandragupta Maurya, during whose period first Jaina council happened and division of Swetambar and Digambar happened, and then Khadavela. In Hathi Gumfa inscription, he is talking about giving patronage to Jainism, and he made these caves, Udayagiri and Khandagiri caves, for Jaina people so that they can, you know, reside in these places, in these caves. Fine. So please don't equate Udayagiri and Khandagiri caves to Udayagiri caves. They are different. So Udayagiri and Khandagiri caves, Jainism, Khadavela and Hathi Gumfa inscription. Religion is Jainism. Why time period we are associating with a question mark? Because you already know we are talking about the post-Mauryan period, and we don't have a proper chronology of this post-Mauryan period. The dates are very hazy, right? So relevance, it is believed that most, again, You can have a look at this. We have just talked about this. King Khadavela, Hathi Gumfa inscription, gave patronage to Jainism, made these caves as residential blocks. So if you talk about in the terms of chaityas or viharas, although they are generally used for Buddhist caves, what are these? Are these chaityas or are these viharas? Residential blocks for Jaina monks. Very good. As Manisha said, viharas. Let's move on. You don't have to remember the exact number of caves in Udaygiri and Khandagiri. I will tell you the things which are important. We already know the important things. Which king is associated, which religion this particular Udaygiri and Khandagiri caves is associated with. It is not equal to Udaygiri caves where we have Varaha avatar of Vishnu, if I am not wrong. That particular Udaygiri cave is associated with Hinduism, right? Cool. So Manisha, Sundaram, all of you are saying viharas. It is also known as Kataka caves, Katak caves. And again, you can have a look at this near the city of Bhubaneswar. And Kumari Parvat, it was called. Hathi Gumfa inscription is important. We already know about these things. We have talked about these things. Which inscription this is? See this inscription. Even in the first lecture, I think first lecture or earlier lectures, in the postmodern period, we have talked about inscriptions, Hathi Gumfa inscription. In the first lecture which we had, that was on sources and Stone Age. There also we have talked about so many inscriptions, you know, Girnar, Junagadh inscription, Ashoka inscription, everyone talks about, then Allahabad pillar inscription, and then some other inscription. So this inscription is also important, that is Hathi Gumfa inscription, where Khadavela is saying so many things, that he restored the lost pride of Kalinga after the defeat, you know, of Kalinga by Ashoka. So all these things you have to keep in mind. And Khadavela, he belonged to Mahamegha Vahana dynasty, if I am not wrong, that is Chedi dynasty, and this particular Chedi dynasty is one of the 16 Mahajanpads, which also we have discussed in the Mahajanpad lecture. So you can revise these things, that will help you in retaining stuff. Very good. So now if we talk about some other temples and Jaina architectural development. So we have seen Udaygiri and Khandagiri caves. Let's talk about something known as Gomteshwar statue. Oh my God. Have you seen this Gomteshwar statue? Where is it? Do you have any idea? Take a guess. Where is Gomteshwar statue? Kuthai hoitasi. Matlab, where is it, this particular statue? With whom it is associated to? What is he doing standing? What is this particular pose known as? We have to know everything about this particular, you know, architecture, marvel it is. So yes, sir, what is it? I will give you 10 more seconds. Very good, Dark. So it is Lord, or he is Lord Gomteshwar. It is Lord Gomteshwar statue. Lord Gomteshwar statue. Where it is, as Dark said, it is in Shravanbelgola. Shravanbelgola, where is Shravanbelgola? Anybody has any idea which particular state we are talking about here when we are talking about Shravanbelgola? Karnataka. Who is this sir? It is Lord Gomteshwar statue. This sir is known as Bahubali. Bahubali. There is a song in Bahubali, Mano Hari. That song is awesome. Especially whenever you're watching these Telugu movies, watch the Telugu song, original version. I don't like the dubbed Hindi version. They kill it. Although the Manohari song, Hindi version is also cool. So he is Lord Bahubali. And who is Lord Bahubali? He is the son of first Tirthankar. You know, son of first Tirthankar of Jainism. If you know the name of first Tirthankar, write it in the comment section. He is also the brother of Bharata, Lord Bharata, on which our country is named. Fine. So why he is famous? He has done this particular stage, or you know, the pose which you are saying, it is known as Kayot Sarga. Kayot Sarga means he stood like this for 12 years. He stood like this for 12 years and did meditation. And I cannot do meditation for even 5 minutes, even standing or, you know, sleeping on the bed. And he did this pose, he did meditation, standing like this for 12 years. And this whole thing is known as Kayot Sarga. Very, very, very auspicious Lord Gomteshwar statue. It is not Mahavir Swami statue. It is Lord Gomteshwar statue. He is Bahubali. He is not Mahavir Swami. He is the son of first Tirthankar. Cool. So when we are talking about Jaina, architecture, we have to talk about him. We cannot skip him. So Shravan Belgola, Karnataka, you can remember it with Bahubali like this. So famous statue of Gomteshwar, he is Lord Bahubali, as it's written here, son of first Tirthankar of Jainism and brother of King Bharata. And this was made by Western Ganga dynasty. See, in the previous lecture, when we have talked about Sun Temple at Konark, then we have talked about Eastern Ganga dynasty, which created Sun Temple at Konark. And here, when we are talking about Gomteshwar statue, Lord Bahubali, this has been created by Western Ganga dynasty ruler. They are not associated. Don't confuse them as one and the same. Sir, correct me if I am wrong. It was Shravan Belgola wherein Chandragupta performed Salekhana. You have to check it whether it was Shravan Belgola or Adichanallur. It was one of these places, Manisha. Either Shravan Belgola or Adichanallur. So Lord Bahubali, Kamundari, again, just remember the things which I have told you. What is Kayot Sarga? Who was this sir? He was associated with which Tirthankar? He is not Mahavir Swami. As Sundaram said, people get confused in that. Right. Then the other important architecture, Jaina temple at Mount Abu. And it was given patronage by that guy who was also associated with Sun Temple of Modhera, which we discussed yesterday. Sun Temple at Modhera, which god was he, means which king was he? He was associated with Solanki dynasty. And we have also seen that Solanki dynasty is also known as Chaulukyas. And Chaulukya is not equal to Chalukya. They are different. They are not the same dynasty. So which Solanki ruler we are talking about? The same Solanki ruler who gave patronage to Sun Temple at Modhera. He was the one who played a crucial role in creation of Jaina temples at Mount Abu. What was his name? If you have any idea, you can post it in the comment section. His name was Bhima I. And we have talked about this sir in detail a lot in the last lecture, because he was the one who also faced the onslaught of Mahmud of Ghazni. So again, such a brave man that after facing the onslaught, he gave patronage to not only one but two. And these are famous temples, one Hinduism and other Jainism, and God knows what else he did. His, I think, wife, she also gave patronage to some very famous temples. Rishabhnath was the first Jain Tirthankar. Very good. Cool. So, notable for simplistic. Now, temple is famous for its unique pattern, and they have used white marbles in this Jaina temple. I will just show you. See, when they are using white marble, etc., that shows that traders are involved, rich people are involved. We have seen sandstone people used to use, then terracotta people used to use. White marble also they were using in Western India. And then soapstone we have seen in Hoysala architecture. So, do revise these marbles. Rich people, rich architecture. Rich in every sense, I mean, cool. Now, Ellora caves. Why we are reading Ellora caves at the last? Because we have talked about Buddhist architecture, Jaina architecture, and then in Buddhist architecture, we have talked about Elephanta, which has Hindu and Buddhist element both. Ellora caves we are reading at the last because these caves, there are many caves in Ellora, but the caves which are open for we people are 34 caves. And out of those 34 caves, if I tell you, 1 to 12, these are Buddhist caves. 13 to 29, these are Hindu caves associated with Hinduism. And 30 to 34, they are associated with Jainism. So 34 caves, and that is the chronology, So 12 caves for Buddhism, 17 caves for Hinduism, 5 caves for Jainism. Since it is associated with all the three religions, that's why we are reading it at the last, Ellora caves. Fine. And there is a history associated with this also. If you see these caves, you will realize that initially Rashtrakutas, etc., they were giving patronage to Buddhism and Hinduism. So these caves were created. Later on, in 10th, 11th, 12th century, Yadavas, there was a dynasty called Yadava. They gave patronage to Jainism, and 30 to 34, you have these Jaina caves. And out of these Jaina caves, there are 3 caves which you have to remember. Those are very important caves. One is Carpenter's Cave. Let me see if I write it here and you can read it. So one is Carpenter's Cave, associated with Buddhism. Then there is Kailashnath temple, which is associated with Hinduism, And then there is Indra Sabha. Anybody has any idea? Indra Sabha is associated with what? Can you see it? Can you see it? Can you see it? If you cannot see it, I will show you in the other slides also. Don't worry about it. Carpenter's Cave, Buddhism. Kailashnath temple, Hinduism. Indra Sabha is associated with Jainism. We'll talk about it. So again, don't go by the name. People may feel like, oh my god, Indra Sabha, Indra God is associated with Hinduism. Don't go by the name here. You can easily get confused, and that's why we are reading about these architecture in so much detail. So let's start, bro. So Ellora Caves, UNESCO World Heritage Site, shows India's secularism. You have tenets of all the three religion here. All the three, we have like 6 major religion, but hope you can understand Hinduism, Buddhism and Jainism, which were the prominent religion during that period. We have like features of all these three. And again, this is important because we have already seen they have asked about Ajanta caves, etc. They can easily ask where it is located. Charan Nandari Hills, Aurangabad district. Fine. So we have talked about 34 caves. Keep on revising it. 12, 17, 5. Don't forget it. 12 Buddhism, 17 Hinduism, 5 Jainism. Ellora caves, 100 caves are there, but because we humans are so bad, and I mean it here, so bad means that we go to these caves, we do puking of pan here and there, because of which what has happened? So much, I have seen it. Like I was in one place, I will not name it, I don't want to demean any particular place. In the, like, you go, you take stairs and you reach 3rd, 4th floor, whatever, and in between you are seeing on 2nd floor at the corner people are, there is, spots of people puking their pan there, and I'm like, dude, where has all hygiene gone? That is so, so yes, so that people don't do any stupid stuff here. Preservation of these caves are very important. That's why only 34 caves are open to us, and out of those 34 caves, 17 Hindu, 12 Buddhist and 5 are Jaina caves. And I have given you the chronology. 1 to 12, they are Buddhist caves. 13 to 29, they are Jaina caves, and 30 to 34, they are Buddhist caves. So here also there is a chronology, and that shows the communal harmony. There are other examples of communal harmony also, which you will read later on. I have had all 3 as roll numbers. Bara Bazaar in Kolkata. Okay. So yes, where were we? Yes, sir. So let's focus. Communal harmony. Like this is one example of communal harmony. You have one topic, secularism. When you read GS1 mains, you have one topic, secularism. So there you can use the example of Ellora caves. Other example is when we talk about Congress, INC. I know many people like, I'm not talking about party per se. We are talking about Indian National Congress. 1885 it got established. So when you talk about 1885, 1886, 1887, 1888, 4 years. So let's say if we talk about 1885, and let's do a little bit of revision, we'll talk about this later on also. So 1885, who was the Congress president? Umesh Chand Banerjee, if I'm not wrong. 1886, Dadabhai Naoroji, he became president 3 times. 1886, 1893, 1906, then 1887, I think Badruddin Tayabji. And 1888, George Yule. Why we are talking about this? Because this particular slide is talking about communal harmony. So we are giving some more example. So one is Ellora caves, communal harmony. Second is this INC session. See, 1885, Umesh Chandra Banerjee, he is a Hindu. 1886, Dadabhai Naoroji, he is a Parsi. 1887, Badruddin Tayabji, he is a Muslim. 1888, George Yule, he is a Christian. So 4 people belonging to 4 different religion. That also shows India's secularism. So all these things you can use in your exam, and we should be knowing about this. This will help you in your pre as well as mains. Cool. So what we are seeing here, 17, 12 or 5. The better way to remember is like 12, 17 and 5, because 1 to 12 are Buddhist caves, 13 to 29 Hindu, and 30 to 34 Jaina caves. And Indra Sabha is, I think, cave number 32. We'll talk about 3 major caves which you have to remember. That is Carpenter's Cave and, Kalasha temple, and the third one is Indra Sabha. All 3 belonging to 3 different religions. So you can see what I meant earlier, that initially you have Rashtrakuta dynasty in Kalachuri. So they gave patronage to Hindu and Buddhist caves. So they were constructed first. Later on, when Yadava dynasty came, 12th to 14th century, they gave patronage to Jaina caves, and Jaina caves 30 to 34 got constructed. So there is a chronology here. Ajanta caves, you don't have a proper chronology of their naming. They have been named in haphazard manner, but there is a chronology here when we are talking about Ellora caves per se. Badruddin Tayabji, first Muslim president of INC. Very good, Anjali. And who is the first woman president of INC and first Indian woman president of INC? All these are PYQs. You can post it in the comment section. So again, they are writing the same things here, which we have discussed, that the earliest cave 1 to 12 Buddhist, 13 to 29 Hinduism, 30 to 34 Jaina. Now the three important caves out of these 34 caves which you cannot forget, because that is a paap, that is a sin. Nadi kinare saap hai, pada hua galat karna paap hai. That means alongside a river bank you have a snake, and if you're committing mistake in the things which you have already studied, that is a sin. Oh my God. So yes sir, Carpenter's Cave, Vishwakarma Cave, Sutar ki Jhopdi at Ellora. So don't go by the name Vishwakarma Cave. You can easily make a fool out of yourself when you're thinking like Vishwakarma, Hindu, sage. So this is a Hindu cave. No, this is a Buddhist cave. Just like Indra Sabha is a Jain cave, it has nothing to do with Hinduism. So Carpenter's Cave, Vishwakarma Cave, Sutar ki Jhopdi at Ellora. It looks like wooden, ribs. So that's why, it has also been known as Sutar ki Jhopdi. I will show you. Cave number 10. We have just seen the chronology. 1 to 12 Buddhist. You people are writing the name of the presidents of Congress. Awesome. So cave number 1 to 12 Buddhist. This is cave number 10. Coming under our bracket. 13 to 29 is Hinduism. So that means when we are talking about Kalasha temple, it has to be between 13 to 29 because it belongs to Hinduism. That is a monolithic architecture, and we will see how it was created. That's actually a thing of marvel. Just like the Pallavas, monolithic Rathas, And then again. So cave number 10, Vishwakarma cave, most famous Buddhist cave. And again, you can have a look at it. I'm not reading it. I will just show you how it looks. This is the Vishwakarma cave, Carpenter's cave. Don't mistake it. Carpenter's cave is fine, but if it is written Vishwakarma cave, you can get confused. Don't get confused. This is a Buddhist cave. Wooden ribs. See. Then the next one is Kalasha temple. It is a monolithic architecture. Cave number 16, catering to our idea that 13 to 29 are Hindu caves. And it is a monolithic architecture. If we see at Kalasha temple, have a look at Kalasha temple. Just have a look at Kalasha temple. Generally what happens when you're making any monument, what you're doing, you're going from, bottom to top. Generally, when you're making any monument, any temple, you're going from bottom to top. But in the case of Kalasha temple, what they have done was, they have gone from top to bottom. This you have to understand, so that you can understand how monolithic architectures are generally created. What does it mean when we are saying that Kalasha temple, when you are seeing it, they have made it from top to bottom. So initially, this was a single stone, carved out of a single stone. So initially there is a very big stone, imagine it as a stone. Don't look at the features and anything. So what they started doing was, they started doing tuk from top. They started carving out structures from the top, and from there they started going to or downwards, that is top to bottom, how they create monolithic architecture per se. And most of these monolithic architectures are top to bottom. You have model of governance also, bottom up model of governance, top down model of governance. So here, this is top down model of governance, or top down model of architecture rather, where there is a single big, stone, and they are creating sculptures on it, and they are eroding it from the top, they are going down, and they are creating some more structure, and that's how you have they had made Kalasha temple. So keep that in mind. Sir, I request you to upload the PDFs of rest of the classes, because right now I listen to you carefully so I don't take notes. It would help us revise better, as those uploaded ones helped me. So how many have you got up until now, Manisha? 5 I have already given yesterday, 2 I have given today. So I think till 7 lectures I have already given the PDF. So you will get till 7 lectures. I will keep on giving them the lectures. Don't worry about it. You will get all the PDFs. Fine sir, Kalasha temple, let's come back. You now know how these kind of monolithic architectures are created. So largest single monolithic work, excavation in the world. It's not about India, it's the world. Like when we are talking about Vedic period, we have discussed that Gangetic plain area. That is one of the most fertile area, not only in India, it is one of the most fertile area in the world. And this is not only one of the most, this is the largest single monolithic rock excavation in the world. Thing of beauty. 8th century Rashtrakuta king Krishna I. See, up until now, whatever caves we are discussing, Ajanta caves, we have talked about Hari Sen, who was a, Vakataka king of Vatsugulma branch. But mostly we are not focused on who was the exact king or something, because sometimes we don't even know who gave patronage. But here it is important, because this particular Kalasha temple is special. Very special to the past special. That's why we need to know who was the one who gave patronage. Rashtrakuta king Krishna I. Remember this, fine. And vertical excavation we have just discussed how it is a top to bottom model. Generally most of the temples etc., they are bottom to top. You start bringing different structures, different materials, and then you make from bottom to top. This is top to bottom. Then Indra Sabha, cave number 32 if I'm not wrong. We have already discussed that 30 to 34, they belong to Jainas, right? So Indra Sabha, Indra, god associated with Hinduism, you can easily make mistake here. No, this is associated with Jaina. Later on, Yadavas gave patronage. We have just discussed 12 to 14th century AD, Yadava dynasty came and they gave patronage to Jainism, and that's how Indra Sabha was created. And here there are terms. It is associated with, imposing image of Ambika, Yakshini of Neminath. Neminath we have discussed earlier. Who is Neminath? If you know about him, you can post it in the comment section. Who was Neminath? When have we discussed about him? Which particular Tirthankar he is? Is he 22nd Tirthankar of, Jainism or something else? And which particular book we have talked about or associated with Neminath? Was it Hari Vamsha Puran or was it something else? Revised stuff, we have discussed about these things, In that Hari Vamsha Puran, if I'm not wrong, it was said that Krishna, Lord Krishna, Bhagwan Krishna, he is the first cousin of Neminath. In that Hari Vamsha Puran, we have also discussed the fact that Hari Vamsha Puran, which is a Jaina text, it talks about Draupadi getting married to only Arjun, unlike the most like Mahabharata, which talks about Draupadi getting married to 5 Pandavas. So you have to remember these things. Hari Vamsha Puran, very good. What is Yaksh and Yakshini? You don't have to do PhD on these terms, Yaksh and Yakshini. Generally what happens in many cultures, you have sacred groves, sacred plants. So Yakshas and Yakshinis, they are associated with different plants, but they have different meanings here and there as well. So you don't need to do PhD. Yakshini of Neminath. Remember Neminath. Neminath is important, very important, because he is mentioned in Hari Vamsha Puran. So these books are important. You already know they ask which of the following are Buddha text, means Buddhist text and Jaina text. So we have to keep a tab on these kind of text. Fine, bro. Let's move on. So now this is Indra Sabha, cave number 32 of Ellora caves, and we have to remember it. 3 important caves, that is Carpenter's Cave, Kalasha Temple, and Indra Sabha. You cannot forget. And then we have done all these things. Nagara, Dravida, Vishara. Have a tab on this, Northern and Southern style, Nagara and Dravida. This will be important. Now let's solve the PYQs and we'll do some practice questions now. So we have done up until 5 PYQs. Let's solve the 6th one. Where is the famous Virupaksha temple located? Simple question. Now we'll go to the tougher questions. 4 more questions are left after this. Right, Manisha. So as Dar said, Virupaksha temple located in Hampi. We have discussed this. Hampi, named after Pampa Devi, that is Lord Parvati. Virupaksha is Shiva. This is a Vijayanagar style temple. Early Vijayanagar rulers, Sangam rulers, they were Shaivites. Later on, they became Vaishnavite. This whole Shaivite to Vaishnavite conversion, we find it in a book called as Prapannamritam. So all these facts we'll discuss later on also when we are talking about Vijayanagar Empire. Very nice. So the answer is Hampi. Cool. Next question, let's now solve. So we have done 6 PYQs now. Now we'll do 4 practice questions. So answer is C. Okay. 7th question for you. This is a practice question. This is not a PYQ. So you have some Paleolithic site, you have some state. You have to tell how many pairs are correctly matched. Nevasa, Paleolithic site, state. So Nevasa, first, state given is Maharashtra. Second, Adamgarh Hills, state given is Gujarat. Third is Renugunta, state given is Andhra Pradesh. How many pairs are correctly matched? A, only 1. B, only 2. C, all 3. D, none. Now this is a tough question and you people are taking some time. Okay, Dark has given the answer. Manisha, Dark, you people have given the answer. Just give me a second. So Nevasa, it is in Maharashtra. It was a chalcolithic site. Adamgarh Hills, it is not in Gujarat. It is in MP, if I'm not wrong. Renugunta is in Andhra Pradesh. So two pairs are correctly matched. Answer is B, only two. So the questions will be somewhat tougher, but again, expect these kind of questions. So this is Renugunta. This is in Andhra Pradesh, and yeah. Next question, question number 8. Consider the following statements, and there are some facts related to a particular city. The ancient city is situated on the arid island of Khadir. It is divided into 3 parts and includes a large cemetery. The city also boasts a sophisticated water management system. The ever mentioned Harappan city is A. Dhaulavira, B. Rakhigadi, C. Manda, D. Daimabad. Renugunta is part of suburb Tirupati. Very good, Manisha. A. Dhaulavira, B. Rakhigadi, C. Manda, D. Daimabad. Dark is on fire today. Dark Kohli played today in Delhi. The crowd which Delhi witnessed, oh my god. And the answer is Dhaulavira. UPSC love Dhaulavira. So we should know about Dhaulavira. It has middle town also. And we have discussed this when we were discussing Harappan civilization, middle town, right? And then we have also discussed, when we have discussed Indus Valley civilization, that there is one city, maybe there are more than one city, one very famous city which has no citadel. Which was that city? Anybody has any idea which city we have discussed earlier which has no citadel? Post it in the comment section. Let's go to the next question. Question number 9. Consider the following events: Mahaparinirvana of Buddha, coronation of Chandragupta Maurya, third is Alexander's invasion. The correct chronological sequence is A. 132, B. 231, C. 213, D. 312. Very good, Anvesha. Water management is the key word. 3 parts, that is also the key word. So what is the correct order here? Mahaparinirvana of Buddha, coronation of Chandragupta Maurya, Alexander's invasion. The correct chronological sequence. Okay. So I'm getting different answers, Dark and Vesha. So Alexander invasion, that happened around 326 BC. Coronation of Chandragupta Maurya happened after that. So 3 will come first, then 2. And all these things, before all these things, Mahaparinirvana, death of Buddha, that happened much earlier than all these things happened. So 1 has to be the first, and then 3, and then 2. Just revise what you have studied earlier when, 563 or 43 AD, 563 AD, 483 BC, or 563 BC rather, 483 BC, that was the rough period, related to Buddha, and all these things, whatever is happening related to Chandragupta Maurya and Alexander invasion, that is happening in 320s BC. So that's how you can eliminate. Alexander invasion happened first, and then later on Chandragupta Maurya coronation happened. So the answer is A, 1, 3, 2. There is too much divergence in this particular question's answer. I've got all the answers, means like A, B, C, D. I think all the people have answered everything. I don't think you should get this question wrong. This is not that tough a question. Okay, cool. Let's move on to the next question. Which of the following statements regarding Mudra Rakshasa are correct? First statement, authored by Dandin. Second statement, uses terms like Kulaheen and Rishala for Chandragupta's lineage. Third statement, written during the Gupta period. You have to select the correct answer. A, 1 and 2, B, 2 and 3. Mahapari is much later after Vishwakarma. Yes. So, and C, 1 and 3, and D, 1, 2 and 3. Mudra Rakshasa, which of the statements are correct? Authored by Dandin, used terms like Kulahina, Vishala for Chandragupta's lineage. Third, written during Gupta period. What is the correct answer? So, Umesh, Dark, Anjali, Manisha, everybody has answered it. So, Mudra Rakshasa, it was not authored by Dandin. Who wrote this book? Yes, they use the word Kulaheen Vishal for Chandragupta's lineage, or Gupta Empire lineage, that they belong to lower caste or something. So second statement is correct. It was written during Gupta period. That also we have discussed. We have talked about that the guy who wrote Mudra Rakshasa, he also wrote Devi Chandraguptam. UPSC love to ask questions on Devi Chandraguptam. So, and Mudra Rakshasa is a story about a Rakshasa minister during the period of Nanda, whom Kautilya wanted to be associated with them, and Chandragupta Maurya, and how he managed to do that. Kautilya managed to do that. That is the story. So, story about Mauryan Empire, Nanda Empire written during the Gupta period. So, second and third is correct. First statement is wrong. Dandin is not the author. The author, as Dark and Manisha, they are saying Vishakha Datta is the author of Mudra Rakshasa. Very good. And this we have discussed when we were talking about Mauryans, what Buddhist text Digha Nikaya, Mahavamsha, Divyavadna, they are saying. Jaina text Parishtha Parvan, what they are saying about the lineage of Mauryans. Oh, here they are talking about Chandragupta Maurya, not the Chandraguptas rather. So yes, and Mudra Rakshasa written by Vishakha Datta, which talks about their terms like Kulahin and Vishala for Chandragupta's lineage. So all these things I have told you when I was teaching you this particular slide. The purpose is not to tell you about the low origin of Mauryans, etc. No. That is not the purpose. The purpose is to make you remember these texts. Digha Nikaya, Mahavamsha, Divyavadna, they are Buddhist texts, because UPSC asks questions which of the following are Buddhist and Jaina texts. And then Jaina text Parishtha Parvan, Mudra Rakshasa, Vishakha Datta. So this is the purpose, or that is the purpose. Oops, I typed wrong, but I knew the correct option 2 and 3. Very good, yaar. Cool. So now we are done with the lecture part. Now the part is of, the doubts. If you have any doubt related to anything, it's not only confined to history, etc. Related to UPSC pre-2025. Sir, when do I have to start the preparation? Anything which you have. If you have anything in mind, you can ask me now. Any doubt, any specific doubt, anything you want to ask. So for now, we are done with the art and culture part. From tomorrow, we'll be starting early medieval India. We'll be going into the, the territories and everything. We'll see in the map and Pala, Pratihara, Rashtrakutas, what happened after Harsha, and all these things, questions related to them, origin and rise of Rajput, that is actually a tricky area. So yes, sir and ma'am, any doubt, anything you want to ask? Sir, in general, the Mauryans followed which religion? Is it Buddhism? You cannot say that in general Buddhism, but yes, Buddhism was very popular during that particular period. That we can see from, different things and different texts which were written there during that particular period. But yes, as we have seen, different rulers of Mauryans, they follow different religion, Chandragupta Maurya, Jainism, then Bindusara, Ajivika, and then Ashoka, Buddhism. But Ashoka was the most powerful of the three. So you can assume that yes, Buddhism had a fair share of influence in Mauryan period, Anything else you want to ask? Please ask. And that is the basic purpose we have discussed of live session. Whatever doubts you have, you can ask it at the end. Anything, how is your preparation going on? Are you people solving full length mocks right now? What is the approach which you people are following? You can watch these lectures, do whatever is like I'm telling you to do in these lectures. Apart from that, what else you people are doing? Anything you want to ask, you can ask. I think you people are you can collect the doubts, you can ask me tomorrow also. At the end of every session, from yesterday onwards, we have started this thing that will do the questions, questions we'll do in the whole session, and at the end we'll take your doubts. Fine, sir and ma'am. So that's it for today. I will see you people tomorrow at 7 p.m. and we'll be, sir, I'm following FLTs. Very good, Manisha. And the light has gone. So yes, take care, be blessed, tata, bye bye, and collect your